Okay, welcome to Spanish 2. The first thing we're going to do in Spanish 2 is actually go back through Spanish 1 over the next couple weeks just to refresh, get a good base, and then ultimately be successful for the rest of the year. So welcome. The first thing we're going to talk about is the alphabet and numbers. Here are the alphabet. Here is the alphabet. A, B, C, Che, where Che is just CH. Some people consider it 2. Some people consider it 1, so we'll just show you that option. A, B, C, Che, D, A, F, A. The letter G is pronounced He. H is Ache. I is E. So He, Ache, E. J is J. K. L. Eye, which is a double L. It also its own letter. Makes a different sound, makes more of a Y sound if you imagine this way, as in me llamo. You hear it at the beginning of llamo. M, N, Nye, where Nye is its own letter. It's not an N with an accent. It is its own letter. It would have its own key on a keyboard. O, P, Q, R, which is a rolled R, sometimes considered its own letter. Other people just consider it two R's that make a rolled R sound. S, T, U, V, W, meaning double V. X is X. Y, which translates to a Greek Y, or a Greek I, which is a Y. And then finally, Zeta is Z. So to spell out these words, E, S, P, A, N, O, L is Español. C, L, A, S, E is clase. M, A, P, A is mapa. B, A, N, D, A is banda. And señor is S, E, N, O, R. Favorito, F, A, B, O, R, I, T, O. To spell out the word perfecto, it would be P, E, R, F, C, C, T, O. Hola would be H, O, L, A. Abajo, A, B, A, J, O. Llamar, A, A, M, A, R. And moving on to numbers now. You should remember 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And then from there, we can see the numbers vary in a couple ways. You can do either option, whether you're making it one word, 17, or you could put 17, which translates to 10 and 7, 18, 18, 19, 19, and 20 is 20. 21 is 21. 22, 22, and you can imagine the pattern would go on 23, 24, 25, 26, 28, 29. 30 is 30, same pattern, 31, 32. 40 is 40. 50 is 50. 60 is 60. 70 is 70. 80 is 80. 90 is 90. 100 on the dot. If you were saying exactly 100, it is just cien, and we get the word cent from that, like centimeter is 1/100th of a meter. There are 100 cents in a dollar. There are 100 years in a century, so cien is 100. Anything after 100, but before 200 is actually ciento. So you actually have to add a to to the end of it to say ciento uno, 101, ciento y dos, ciento tres, ciento cuatro, 104, 105, so on and so forth. From there, the pattern continues with 200, dos cientos, and then you just add numbers at the end. So 242 would be 242. And then once you know the pattern of that, you just need to learn the extras. 300 is 300, 400, 400, 500 is not cinco cientos, but rather quinientos. Quinientos. It's very irregular, but you got to know it. Quinientos. 600 is seis cientos, so back to the regular, just put the number before the word cientos. 700 is setecientos. Notice how it drops the I from siete just to become sete. Ochocientos is regular. Novecientos is irregular. Instead of nuevecientos, it's nove with an O instead of a UE. And then after that, to say 1,000, you'd say mil. Like millimeter is 1,000th of a meter. A millennium is 1,000 years, and so on and so forth. 2,000 would be 2,000. Again, seeing the pattern, you could make any number. So for example, if you wanted to say 26,000, you'd say 26,000. Or if you wanted to say 40,000, 40,000. We have some sentences with some errors in them. We'll probably go over them in class, but in case you missed it, you do not need to say me llamo es Roberta. You just need to say me llamo Roberta. To say I am from Chicago, we say soy de Chicago. We need to make adjectives agree here. My shirt is yellow because mi camisa is feminine. It ends in an A. Amarilla also needs to end in an A, so it agrees in gender and number. It's singular and feminine. Conjugating the verb ser here, if we want to say we are kind, we'd say nosotros somos amables. Here we need the adjective to agree in number. So instead of las chicas son simpáticas, we say las chicas son simpáticas, and we add an S. So las chicas simpáticas all are in agreement in gender, which is feminine, and number, which is plural. Instead of saying donde es, we need to use a star. Donde está el baño? To say when going to school, we can't forget that preposition. Yo voy a la escuela. I am going to the school. And instead of saying está frío, meaning it's cold, we need to say tiene frío means she has coldness. It's something we'll talk about later on in this review, how many different ways they use the verb tener. And finally, to say me gusta is to say I like Spanish class. So me gusta la clase, not yo gusto. A mi hermano le gustan perros, because perros is plural. We always need to make sure the gusta is plural and has an N if the thing that is liked is plural. So you can say le gusta el perro, likes the dog, but if he likes plural dogs, we have to add an N, and then you have to say le gustan. We don't have apostrophes in Spanish, so you can't say Maria's libro. You have to say the book of Maria, not Maria's book, el libro de Maria. La cómica chica, this is adjective placement. All the adjectives actually have to go after the noun, so instead of saying the funny girl, you actually have to say the girl funny, la chica cómica. A few more. Ella cantan is a misconjugation. It would be ella canta, if you remember how to conjugate from Spanish 1. Tu escribas has an AR verb ending when escribir is an IR verb, so it needs to be tu escribes. And lastly, we have yesterday, ayer yo voy a clase. That means yesterday I go to class. We want to say yesterday I went. And if you learn the preterite tense in Spanish 1, you would know that's ayer yo fui a clase. And we'll cover that actually in a couple months. Moving on to colors and days of the week. Some practice that we did in class, the big colors, azul, rojo, blanco, violeta, amarillo, anaranjado, verde, rosa, things like that. So just make sure you get down those from another class. Don't worry about these practices. Days of the week. Monday we have el lunes, Tuesday el martes, Wednesday el miércoles, don't forget that accent. Thursday is el jueves, Friday is el viernes, Saturday is el sábado, with an accent on the A. So Wednesday and Saturday have accent. And Sunday is el domingo. And these actually come from planets, where el lunes, luna means moon, so Monday represents the moon, Tuesday represents Mars, Wednesday represents Mercury, Thursday represents Jupiter. Friday represents Venus. Sábado represents Saturn. And finally, El Domingo represents the sun. It doesn't come from the word sol, but that's why we have ours as Sunday. Domingo comes from the root, which means sun. Now we're moving on to question words. They call them interrogative pronouns. These are your who, what, where, when, whys. So why is por qué, when is cuando, what is qué, where is donde, which is cuál, how is cómo. Quién is who, so quién es means who is there. So a practice you have in your notes. If the answer to the question is the girl is Eva, the question is who is the girl? ¿Quién es la chica? If the answer is the library is next to the AV office, we're asking where is the library? ¿Dónde está la biblioteca? If the answer is I like to skate a lot, the question is what do you like to do? ¿Qué te gusta hacer? If the answer is I want to play soccer, quiero jugar al fútbol, the question is why do you want to go to the park? Because I want to play soccer. ¿Por qué? If the answer is he is tall, funny, and smart, we're going to ask how is the new student? ¿Cómo es el nuevo estudiante nueva? How is the new student? If the answer is my number is 555-1212, mi número es 555-1212, the question is what or which is your phone number? Where here we use the word which instead of what because there is a finite amount of phone numbers in the world. Which one is yours? Instead of what is your phone number, we say which. If the answer is he is going to the cafeteria, we're asking to where is the teacher going? ¿A dónde? Notice we use a instead of just donde, because a is in the answer. Va a la cafeteria, a donde va el maestro. So to where is he going? So whenever you have ir, I'm talking about going to somewhere, the question word has to be a donde instead of just donde. And then finally, if the answer is there are 5 dogs in the house, the question is how many dogs are in the house? ¿Cuántos? That's another question word. Next thing we're going to cover is subject pronouns. Those are the words in English that represent people or things in a sentence. Pronouns obviously take the place of nouns, so a subject pronoun takes the place of a proper noun like a name. In English, you'll see that they are I, you, he, she, we, you, all, and they. In Spanish, what they are going to do is translate a little bit to yo, tú, él, ella, usted, nosotros, or nosotras if it's all women, vosotros or vosotras if it's all women, and then ellos, ellas, and ustedes. You're going to see that you have the formal you, usted and ustedes, meaning you all. Vosotros is used just in Spain. So if we were going to replace las chicas, the girls want to study, las chicas quieren estudiar, we would say ellas quieren estudiar. To say mi hermano y yo vamos al cine, my brother and I go to the movies. We go to the movies, nosotros vamos al cine. Anytime you see y yo, it's going to be replaced with nosotros. Tú y tú, you and you. Tú y tú piensan comer juntos. Because we have plural amount of people and you are one of them, it's going to be you all or ustedes. La maestra de inglés es buena. The English teacher is good. She is good. Ella es buena. Next we have Señor Muñoz va a concierto. You are saying, Mr. Muñoz, are you going to the concert? We're talking directly to him. We're not talking about him like he is going to the concert. And we know we're talking to him just because there's a comma directly after his name. Whenever you see a comma after somebody's name, it means you're talking to the person. And because we're using a formal title with him, Señor, he is going to be used in the usted form, not the tú form. Usted va al concierto. Are you going to the concert? Here we can also see another comma after the name, Paco. So it means we're talking directly to Paco. So we're saying, Paco, do you want to come to my house? ¿Quieres venir a mi casa? ¿Tú quieres venir a mi casa? Do you want to come to my house? Chicos, another comma, means we're talking to them. So it's like saying, hey, you guys, or boys and girls, van a estudiar. Are you all going to study? Ustedes van a estudiar. Mi papá, mi mamá y yo salimos. My dad, my mom, and I leave. Nosotros salimos. Remember, anytime you have y, yo at the end of a subject, whether it's my mom and I, my mom's mom and I, the whole world and I, it's going to be nosotros. Now, if we're going to take those subjects and begin to conjugate, the first verb that you learned to conjugate in Spanish one was ser, and it means to be. To conjugate ser in Spanish, to say I am, you are, he or she is, we'd say yo soy, tú eres, él es, ella es, or usted es. Nosotros somos is we are. Vosotros sois is you all are if we were in Spain. And ellos son and ellas son is they are. And ustedes son is you all are. And that's something that you'd see more common in the United States. So if we wanted to say I am from Bolivia, yo soy de Bolivia. Miguel y Susana son de Ecuador. They are from Ecuador. Mi hermana y yo somos de los Estados Unidos. My sister and I are from the United States. Notice you just use the conjugation of ser according to the subject. And then with the word de, you're saying to be from somewhere. ¿Eres tú de Colombia? Are you from Colombia? Silvia es de Uruguay. Silvia is from Uruguay. Son or sois, here's a difference. You could use son if you're in the United States or the Western Hemisphere. Sois would really only be from Spain. But son tú y Linda de California. Are you and Linda, or you all, from California? Él es de Venezuela. He is from Venezuela. ¿De dónde eres tú? Where are you from? Another reason we use ser is to describe people. And to describe people, of course, we're going to need to use adjectives. And of course, adjectives describe nouns, or in this case, they describe people. So adjectives, when you write them out, they must agree in gender and number. Say that over and over and over again. Gender and number is very, very important in Spanish. So usually what you'll see is an adjective that ends in the letter O. That means it's masculine and singular, meaning there's one person and it's a man. If you see it ended in A, that means it's a single woman. Os would be plural amount of men, or at least one man. And as would mean only women, but there's a plural amount. You will see some adjectives that don't end in o or a or os or as, like inteligente or feliz. Those would just be gender neutral, where a boy is inteligente or a girl is inteligente. It doesn't change at all, but they do become plural. So for example, if we were going to look at the noun or the adjective simpático, nice or kind. El chico es simpático. La chica es simpática, where you see all those words end in A. Los chicos son simpáticos. Los chicos son simpáticos, all words end in OS. And las chicas son simpáticas. Where all of the four, simpático, simpática, simpáticos, simpáticas, all in English mean nice. In Spanish, they have to change to agree in gender and in number. Callado. El chico es callado, the boy is quiet. La chica es callada, the girl is quiet. Los chicos son callados, the boys are quiet. Las chicas son calladas, the girls are quiet. Inteligente, just because it doesn't have gender. El chico es inteligente or la chica es inteligente, no change there. But if it's plural, it becomes los chicos son inteligentes or las chicas son inteligentes. For amable, same idea. El chico es amable, kind. La chica es amable, the girl is kind. Los chicos son amables, the boys are kind. Las chicas son amables, the girls are kind. Trabajador, which means hardworking, is a bit of an exception. It follows a different pattern. If we were going to say the boy is hardworking, we'd say el chico es trabajador. La chica es trabajadora, is the girl is hardworking. The boys are hardworking. Los chicos son trabajadores, so you see it ends in es. And the girls are hardworking. Las chicas son trabajadoras. So you can see it kind of follows the rule, but it's a bit of an exception. So if we did some practices, Susan is very hardworking. Susana es muy trabajadora. Mónica y Amelia son calladas. Mónica y Amelia are quiet. Miguel es muy atlético. Miguel is very athletic. David y Maria son serios, with an S because it's multiple people. And depending on you, if you're a boy or a girl, it would either be yo soy estudioso or yo soy estudiosa. I am studious. If we want to do comparisons with adjectives, saying that somebody is more studious than somebody else, or less tall or shorter, or all those kind of words, what we need to use is the verb ser, and then we're going to use más and que, meaning more than. So more, tall than, or taller. And remember, the adjective always needs to agree in gender and number. So for example, if we wanted to say Nacho is funnier than Chacho, we would really have to say Nacho is more funny than Chacho. You can't say, there's no like funny in Spanish. You have to just say more funny. So Nacho es más cómico que Chacho. Notice how cómico agrees with Nacho because he's a boy. To say somebody is less something than somebody else, we use menos. Think of the word minus. And the adjective agrees in gender and number. Chacho es menos cómico que Nacho. Chacho is less funny than Nacho. If we wanted to say that they are equivalent or the same as each other, we'd use tan and como. So tan always pairs up with como. Adjective agreeing in gender and number. Nacho es tan cómico como Chacho. Nacho is as funny as Chacho. There are a few irregulars. There's 4 words that don't use más or menos. Instead, they're going to have a different comparison word. If we want to say somebody is older, we don't say más viejo or more old. We just say mayor. Instead of saying more young as in más joven, we just say menor, which means younger. Think of the word minor. In English, we don't even say more good, we say better. And there's a word for better in Spanish as well, mejor. And instead of saying more bad, we say worse. And in Spanish, that is peor. Notice how they all end in R, so you don't have to make them agree in gender. However, if they are plural, you need to make them agree in number. For example, mayores means older if there's multiple people. Menores, mejores, and peores. So my father is older than my mother. Mi padre es mayor que mi madre. We don't have to say más mayor, just mayor. My friend is better than your friend. Mi amigo es mejor que tu amigo. And again, we don't have to say más mejor. That would mean more better. So some more examples. My mother is taller than your grandmother. Mi madre es más alta que tu abuela. Notice how alta agrees with madre, so it's feminine. Nico's dog is lazier than Rico's cat. Again, there's no apostrophe S in Spanish, so we have to say the dog of Nico is lazier than the cat of Rico. El perro de Nico es más perezoso que el gato de Rico. History class is as boring as math class. La clase de historia es tan aburrida como la clase de matemáticas. Notice how aburrido now agrees with la clase, so it becomes feminine. La clase es aburrida. Chicken is less rich than steak. El pollo es menos rico que el bistec. Tennis is better than hockey. This is one of those where we have to use a substitute irregular word. So el tenis es mejor que el hockey. My left foot is bigger than my right foot. Mi pie means my foot. Mi pie izquierdo es más grande que mi pie derecho. Izquierdo is left, derecho is right. Apples are as delicious as grapes. Las manzanas son tan deliciosas como las uvas. Notice how deliciosas agrees with las manzanas. Dresses are less comfortable than pants. Los vestidos son menos cómodos que los pantalones. Notice how cómodos agrees with los vestidos. Ricky Martin is as good looking as Enrique Iglesias. Ricky Martin es tan guapo como Enrique Iglesias. And profe is more beautiful than Brad Pitt. Profe es más bonito que Brad Pitt. Moving on to estar, if you're at this point in the packet. Estar is another verb that means to be. Remember, we already just talked about the verb ser meaning to be. But to use estar, you have to think of this rhyme. Remember, how you feel and where you are, always use the verb estar. Estar conjugates as follows. So yo estoy, tú estás, él, ella, usted está, nosotros estamos, vosotros estáis, and ellos, ellas, ustedes están. Notice how the bottom four have accents. The top two do not. Estoy and estamos do not. So if we were going to describe feelings, remember how you feel and where you are, we'd use estar and then a feeling or some sort of temporary condition. So, el maestro está cansado. The teacher is tired. Las chicas están enfermas. The girls are sick. Notice how these adjectives, tired and sick, agree with the subject. So, el maestro está cansado. Las chicas están enfermas. And here you can see adjectives always, always, always agree in gender and number. The second part of the rhyme, how you feel and where you are, we're going to use estar as well. Here's some useful expressions that'll help you remember how to describe things in relation to other things. So you can say something is close to or near to, far from, next to, between, on top of, underneath, to the right of, and so on and so forth. So we have cerca de, lejos de, al lado de, entre, encima de, debajo de, a la derecha de, a la izquierda de, enfrente de, delante de, detrás de, and dentro de. The difference between enfrente and delante, enfrente means facing or like opposing. So if we were facing each other, I'd use enfrente. Delante just means in general it's in front of it, like the mailbox is in front of the house. Be careful. When you are using some of those expressions, remember they have the word de on most of them. If you follow it with the word el, you have to make it combined to the word del. So in the example sentence, la biblioteca está al lado de la cafeteria, no change needed. However, if we were going to say the chalk, la tiza, is on top of the eraser, está encima del borrador, notice how de and el, meaning of the, like on top of the, form del. So now we talked a little bit about estar. Now we want to contrast it a little bit with ser. The reasons we use ser can be remembered by the following acronym. C note. C stands for characteristic, N for nationality, O for occupation, T for time, and E for event location. So to start out, if you wanted to use to describe something and it's a characteristic of something, we'd use ser. So yo soy alto, I am tall. That's a characteristic of me. Possession, like this is mine, would use ser. Relationships, he is my friend, would be ser as well. If we were describing the nationality of somebody, whether we're saying you all are Mexican, ustedes son mexicanos, or you all are from Mexico, ustedes son de Mexico, that would be ser as well. Occupation is the same way. If you're describing the occupation, think of it, the occupation, your occupation or your nationality is somewhat of a characteristic as well, no? So if you wanted to ask, are you a doctor? ¿Es usted médico? Or yo soy profesor, I am a teacher. Yo soy estudiante, I am a student, because being a student is an occupation, right? If you want to express the time, we're going to use ser as well. So son is a conjugation of ser. Son las 6 menos cuarto. It is 6 o'clock minus a quarter of an hour, so it's 5:45. And event location, it seems like how you feel and where you are is when you use the verb estar, but for this specific exception, if you were describing the location of an event, it actually becomes ser. So think, el concierto es en el parque. The concert is in the park. Even though you're describing its location, because it's an event, and a lot of times you'll hear the concert, the party, the any sort of event like that, it's actually going to be ser because it's event location. We already talked about estar as how you feel and where you are, but it actually is a little bit more than that. How you feel and where you are is the F and L, but the acronym FLT The T stands for temporary because things that are temporary are going to be a star. You're going to generally see that things that are permanent, like characteristics, nationality, occupations, are going to be ser, while things that are temporary are going to be a star. Think about it. Feelings are temporary and locations are temporary as well. So if we want to say, I am tired, estoy cansado, we are in class, estamos en clase, or things that are temporary, the door is closed, la puerta está cerrada, the door is open, I am sitting, I am standing, the window is open, the coffee is hot. Things like that are going to be temporary. So if we were going to look at some examples, el pupitre es de madera, the desk is made of wood, is a characteristic. Maria es mexicana, that's her nationality. Los muchachos están felices hoy, they are feeling happy today, so a star. Rodrigo y yo somos de Colombia, we are from Colombia, that's our nationality. El refrigerador está en la cocina, the refrigerator is in the kitchen, that's its location. La clase de español es a las 11, the Spanish class is at 11 o'clock, that's expressing time. Marisol y Teresa son bonitas, they are pretty, that's a characteristic. La cafeteria está cerca del teatro, the cafeteria is close to the theater, that's location. Yo estoy cansada de tarea, that means I am tired of homework, that's a feeling, so we're going to use a star there. So if you have any questions about ser and a star, come see me after school or I can give you some more practice. Just remember C note and FLT. Now we're going to start talking about two other verbs, two very important verbs, ir, which means to go, and tener, which means to have, and how they conjugate. They're a bit irregular, so we're going to take a look at them. First, we're going to start out with ir, means to go. So to say I am going, you say yo voy, you are going. Tu vas, he or she is going. Él va, ella va, we are going. Vamos, y'all in Spain are going. Vais, they are going. Van, and so on and so forth. So if you need to use the word a to say that someone is going to somewhere. A means to. So when a, however, is followed by the word el, they combine to form al. That is just like with the word del. So, voy a la biblioteca, no change there, but if we wanted to say they are going to the gym, ellos van a el gimnasio, a and el actually form the word al gimnasio. We can also use ir to say what somebody is going to do, like in the future. To do that, we use ir a infinitive. To say I am going to study tomorrow, we'd say yo voy a estudiar mañana, where you don't have to conjugate the verb estudiar. So yo voy a, and then any verb in the world, and it'll say what you are going to do. Ellas van a dormir. They are going to sleep later. Más tarde. So if we look at some practices, tengo mucha tarea, voy a la biblioteca. I have a lot of homework. I'm going to the library. The yo form, because we see the word tango is in the yo form as well. Necesitas, you need to exercise. Necesitas hacer ejercicio. Vas tú al gimnasio. Are you going to the gym? Rodrigo y Ramón van a ir de compras hoy. Here's an ir a infinitive. They are going to go shopping today. Margarita y yo vamos a la clase de matemáticas. We are going to math. Van ustedes al centro comercial. Are you all going to the mall? Santiago va a patinar en línea después de la escuela. He is going to skate or rollerblade after school. There's an ir a infinitive for you. Tener, on the other hand, means to have, and it conjugates as follows. Tengo, tienes, tiene, tenemos, tenéis, and tienen. Notice that it changes to e to ie as in a stem change in the boot, except for the yo form. Remember, the boot involves the yo form, the to form, ele usted, and the ellos, ellas, ustedes. Nosotros and vosotros are not in the boot. If you draw a circle around them, it kind of represents a boot. So yo tengo, I have. Tú tienes, you have. Él tiene, ella tiene, he or she has. Nosotros tenemos, we have. Vosotros tenéis, y'all have. Ellos tienen, ellas tienen, they have. Or ustedes tienen, you all have. So we're going to look at some conjugations. Actually, first we're going to look at some expressions that we use with tener. To use these, instead of saying ser or a star, a lot of people make that mistake. What you actually want to say, instead of being cold, we have cold. So you wouldn't say yo soy or yo estoy frío. You'd actually say yo tengo frío, like I have cold, or like coldness, like it's something you could possess. Same thing with tener calor, means to have hotness or like to have heat or to be warm. Tener sed is to have thirst. Tener hambre is to have hunger. Tener miedo is to have fear or to be afraid of something. Tener razón literally means to have reason, which in English would translate to being right. So I am right, yo tengo razón, or I have reason. And to be lucky, you actually say I have luck, tengo suerte. And then also we use tener with the expression que to say to have to do something. So if you ever want to say I have to do something, you'd say tengo que, and then you actually use the infinitive again. So tengo que estudiar means I have to study. And finally, to feel like doing something is tener ganas de, or to have the urge or the desire to. So tengo ganas de estudiar is I feel like studying. So looking at some conjugations here. Mi madre tiene 40 años. She has 40 years. We also use it to express age in that way. Mis amigos y yo tenemos que estudiar para el examen. My friends and I have to study for the test. Tengo una computadora. I have a computer in my room. ¿Cuántos años tienes tú? How many years do you have? Miguel tiene ganas de pasar un rato con sus amigos. Miguel feels like spending time with his friends, or has the desire to or the urge to spend a bit with his friends. Some more examples. Sofía y yo tenemos que tomar apuntes en la clase de inglés. We have to take notes. There's a tener que infinitive. ¿Tienen ustedes hambre? Do you all have hunger, or are you all hungry? La maestra tiene 30 estudiantes en su clase. She has 30 students in her class. Yo tengo miedo de una escuela nueva. I have fear of a new school, or I'm afraid of a new school. Estefanía tiene razón. Estefanía has reason or is right. So Estefanía is right. Ricky Martin is handsome. Ricky Martin es guapo. Moving on to gustar. If you're at this point in the packet, you want to go back over that. In Spanish, to say you like or that you love something, you use indirect object pronouns. And what you'll see there are, they are me, te, le, nos, os, and les. So if you want to say I like, you're also going to just use the word gusta. So me gusta, te gusta means you like, le gusta means he or she likes, or you in the formal sense. Nos gusta means we like, os gusta means you all like if we were in Spain, and les gusta means they like. Notice how gusta does not change. Depending on who likes the object or whatever is being liked, you need to switch around between me, te, le, nos, os, and les. So for example, I like to study, me gusta estudiar. So to say I love to read, instead of using gusta, which means in a sense kind of just to like something, encanta means to love doing something or to really like. So me encanta leer is I love to read. To ask somebody if they like to sing, do you like to sing? ¿Te gusta cantar? We love to learn Spanish. Nos encanta aprender el español. We changed the me from me encanta to nos because we love. They like to eat pizza. Les gusta comer la pizza. And she loves to drink lemonade. Le encanta beber la limonada. With infinitive verbs, the form gustar or encantar never changes. It's always singular. That's why you just keep saying gusta, 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 encanta, encanta, encanta. However, when we use gustar or encantar with nouns, there are two possible forms. It is either singular, as in gusta, if whatever you're liking is singular. So if you want to just say, I like the book, or I love the book, me gusta el libro, me encanta el libro. However, if the thing you like is plural, like dogs, you would actually need to change it to gustan and encantan, where you add an N at the end of it to make sure that it agrees with los perros. So me gustan los perros means I like dogs. Me encantan los perros means I love dogs. So you have to pay attention. Is the thing that is being liked plural? If so, you have to add an N. And again, in the examples above, the form of gustar or encantar matches the thing that is liked, not the person who likes it. So if we looked at some examples, if we wanted to say, I like orange juice, me gusta el jugo de naranja, where we pick me because of a mí, and because orange juice is singular, it doesn't have an N, just gusta. Ricardo likes apples, we choose les or le because Ricardo, and because apples is plural, we put an N on gustan. A David y a Rodrigo, so we choose les, they like, gusta, les gusta la cena. Gusta is singular because dinner is singular. A nosotros nos gusta comer mucho. We like to eat a lot. The action of eating, all verbs are always singular, so you don't have to worry about plural with verbs like comer. And do you like eggs? A ti te gustan los huevos, where we have gustan because it's a plural, los huevos. More examples. Angela likes coffee. A Angela le gusta el café, because coffee is singular. A mí me gusta beber mucho té, because it's a verb, beber, it's singular. A Sofía y a Lola les gusta estudiar en la biblioteca. Estudiar is a verb, so it's only singular. A Manuel le gusta la comida saludable. Singular noun, healthy food. Y a ti te gusta más el desayuno. You like breakfast more. So if we were going to look at some examples here, I like soft drinks, but I love milkshakes. Me gustan los refrescos, pero me encantan los batidos. Notice how soft drinks and milkshakes are plural, so gusta and encantan both end in N. Maria likes cereal, but she loves eggs. A Maria le gusta el cereal, pero le encantan los huevos. Notice how you have to put a before Maria. You can't just say Maria le gusta. You have to say a Maria le gusta. Because cereal is singular, it's just gusta. Because eggs is plural, it's encantan with an N. We like to share breakfast, but we love to share lunch. Nos gusta compartir el desayuno, pero nos encanta compartir el almuerzo. The children like soup, but they love noodles. A los niños, notice how it's a los niños. You just can't say los niños. You have to have the word a before it. A los niños les gusta la sopa, pero les encantan los fideos. Ends in an N. Encantan because noodles is plural. You like dogs, but you love cats. Te gustan los perros. Has an N at the end because dogs is plural. Pero te encantan los gatos, but you love cats. All right, next we're going to talk about the present tense, and that's when you would use the present tense to show that an action is happening right now. So tenses in general show when actions are happening. Present tense, and we call it the present indicative, you might hear that, shows when that an action is happening at this very moment. So for example, if we wanted to conjugate one of these verbs to say something that is happening right now, we're going to follow these steps. First of all, you need an infinitive, meaning to do something. You'll have the to in front of it, to make, to dance, to think, to want, to feel. In English, they all start with to. In Spanish, you're going to know that infinitives end in AR, ER, or IR. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to take that infinitive, chop off the AR, ER, or IR, and then you're going to add the appropriate ending. What that's going to look like for AR verbs is the following. So if we looked, for example, the verb hablar, which means to talk or to speak, we know it's an infinitive in Spanish because it ends in AR, and we're going to chop off the AR ending and then add one of the following endings to the end of it for AR verbs. And this applies to all AR verbs. O, as, a, amos, ais, and an. Notice vosotros has an accent. So we know that the yo form is up in the O, the to form is as, the LEU dead form a, and so on and so forth. So if we were going to take the O in the yo form and attach it onto the end, yo hablo means I am talking. Tu hablas means you are talking. Él or ella habla, he or she is talking, or usted habla means you are talking formally. Nosotros hablamos means we are talking. Vosotros habláis, you all are talking, if we were in Spain. And ellos or ellas hablan is they are talking, or ustedes hablan means you all are talking. So just taking any AR verb and flipping through those endings changes who is doing the talking. Yo hablo, I am talking. Nosotros hablamos, we are talking. For ER verbs, you're going to see some patterns here. The endings are slightly different, where all of the A's now turn into E's, but the same general rules apply. O es a, amos es en. Still a accent on vosotros. To form ends in an S, no, or ellos, ellas, ustedes ends in an N, and so on and so forth. So a verb like comer, which means to eat. So if you wanted to say I eat, yo como. You eat, tú comes. He or she is eating. Él or ella come. We eat, nosotros comemos. Y'all eat in Spain, vosotros coméis. And they eat or they are eating, ellos comen. Or ustedes comen would be you all are eating. So the important thing to remember, o, as, a, amos, ais, an for AR verbs, o, es, a, amos, es, en for ER verbs. IR verbs have these endings where you're going to see in the boot, and we'll talk about what the boot means later on if you remember that from Spanish 1. You can see they're very similar, or they're the exact same as ER verbs. Only in the nosotros and vosotros form is it difference. Instead of amos, it's imos. Instead of es, it's is. Still an accent though. So vivir means to live. So if we were going to chop off our ending, I live, vivo. Vives, you live. Vive, he or she is living, or you are living formally. We are living, nosotros vivimos. Vosotros vivís, y'all are living if we were in Spain. And you all live, ustedes viven, or they live, ellos viven. So if we looked at some practices, if we want to say Ramon is drawing or draws in art class, Ramon dibuja. Silvia y Rosa nadan en la piscina. They are swimming or they swim in the pool. Mi maestra de español canta todos los días. My Spanish teacher sings every day. Yo llego temprano a la escuela. I arrive early to school. Mis amigos andan en patineta en el verano. My friends skateboard in the summer. Rafael y Mario comen las uvas. They eat or they are eating grapes. Ustedes escriben en el pizarrón. You all are writing or you all write on the board. Mis amigos comparten el almuerzo. My friends share or are sharing lunch. Tú bebes los refrescos. You drink soda or the soft drinks. Marisol y yo comemos la sopa. Marisol and I eat or are eating soup. Stem changes is what we're going to cover next, which you can possibly remember from Spanish 1, is that some verbs, not all verbs, but certain verbs, and you have to memorize them, have a stem change in the present tense. This stem change happens when the stem changes, usually adds another vowel or changes vowels. The stem of the verb is the part before the AR, ER, or IR. So if we were going to look at these three verbs, jugar, querer, and pedir, the bolded, J-U-G, Q-U-E-R, and P-E-D, that's the stem. Remember, each verb has a stem and an ending. The ending is AR, ER, or IR. Stem-changing verbs are often called boot verbs because the spelling change that we're going to talk about occurs in all forms except the nosotros and the vosotros forms. And we'll show you what that looks like right now. For example, querer, which means to want. If we wanted to say I want, we'd say quiero. You want, quieres. He or she wants, quiere. And you're going to see that querer has an E to IE stem change, where the E in querer changes to IE in quiero. And you're going to hear that E in quiero come out. Now that change only happens in the four forms in the box. Outside of that, queremos and queres, you can see that there's not an I sandwiched between the U and the E. And the reason we call them boot verbs is, of course, it looks just like a boot. Remember, the stem change only happens in the boot. Other verbs that do the same thing, this E to IE stem change, empezar, the yo form will show you just the yo forms. Empiezo, entender means to understand, entiendo. To prefer is prefiero, I prefer. And I think from pensar, which means to think, yo pienso. Moving on to a different type of stem change. So if we have E to IE stem changes, we also have other types. The next type of stem change is an E to I. It's much less common than E to IE, but there are some certain verbs. For example, pedir, the E is going to change to an I inside the boot. You can see it becomes pido, pides, pide, piden, but outside we don't make that change. You still have your same IR verb endings, so yo pido, tu pides, ele usted pide, pedimos, pedis, and piden. And of course it looks like a boot. Really, the only other stem changing E to IE or E to I verb that you want to concern yourself with is servir, to serve. To say I serve, you say yo sirvo, and the E changes to an I. The next group we're going to look at is O to UE, and as you can imagine, the O in almorzar changes to UE within the boot. Yo almuerzo, I have lunch. Tu almuerzas, you have lunch. Él or ella or usted almuerza. Ellos or ustedes almuerzan, but rather almorzamos and almorzáis outside of the boot. Means to have lunch. I have lunch, you are having lunch. He or she is having lunch, we have lunch, y'all have lunch, and they have lunch. Other verbs that work this way, don't forget it's a boot. Other verb that work this way, poder, puedo, as in puedo ir al baño, means can I or I can or I am able to. Dormir, which means to sleep. To say I sleep, you'd say yo duermo. Volver means to return or to come back. Yo vuelvo is I am coming back. And costar, to cost, has that as well. So cuesto means I cost, which you'd never say. But cuesta means it costs, or cuestan means they cost. Our last stem changing verb is actually doesn't have any other verbs. It's just the only verb that is U to UE, and that's jugar. Juego, juegas, juega, juegan, but outside of the boot, we have jugamos and jugáis. Again, it's an AR verb, so we have AR endings, o, as, a, amos, ais, an. Inside the boot, it just changes U to UE. And there's no other verbs in the category of U to UE. Jugar is the only U to UE verb. However, there's something we need to talk about in terms of when several verbs are next to each other. When one verb immediately follows another, the first verb is conjugated and the second verb stays in the infinitive form. We never need to conjugate two verbs directly in a row. You should not do that. So for example, quiero cantar means I want to sing. Notice how querer is conjugated in the yo form, and you're saying yo quiero as in I want, but you do not have to conjugate cantar. You just say to sing. I want to sing. You would never say quiero canto. No need to conjugate both verbs. So only the first verb. So here you can see another practice. It's a letter written to Roberto from Eduardo. Vas al concierto? Are you going to the concert? Yo quiero ir. I want to go. Notice how ir is not conjugated. Pero no puedo. Mi hermano tiene el coche y él no vuelve hasta mañana. My brother has the car, but he is not returning until tomorrow. Catalina piensa que el concierto va a ser fantástico. Pero ella no puede ir tampoco. Catalina thinks that the concert is going to be fantastic, but she can't go either. Las entradas cuestan $50. Tickets cost $50. Con $50, mi familia y yo podemos comer en el restaurante Samba. My family and I could eat in Samba's restaurant. And notice how comer after podemos, the conjugated podemos, is not conjugated. Now we're going to cover yogos and other irregulars that happen in the present tense, just kind of other things that go on when we're conjugating that we need to be aware of. The big one that you probably remember is yo tengo. That's considered a yogo, but other verbs end in the go when they're in the yo form as well. For example, poner means to put. You can see it's regular everywhere else. Pones, pone, ponemos, pones, pone. Not even a stem change. But the yo form becomes yo pongo, meaning I put or I set. So pongo mis libros en la mesa. I put my books on the desk. Other yogos, hacer is yo hago. Salir is yo salgo. Traer, which means to bring, is yo traigo. Salir means to leave. Caer, which means to fall, yo caigo. Tener, like we know, is yo tengo, and the reason it has an asterisk is because it's also an E to IE stem changing verb. So you'd say tengo, but then elsewhere in the boot, it's tienes, tiene, and tienen with an E to IE stem change. Outside of the boot, it is tenemos and tenéis. Venir works just like tener, becomes yo vengo, and then it goes vienes, viene, venimos, venís, and vienen, so also an E to IE stem changer. And decir is yo digo with an E to I stem change elsewhere, becomes dices, dice, and dicen, but outside it becomes decimos and decis outside of the boot. Two more verbs that we need to pay attention to that are irregular. Ver is irregular only in the yo form. The only reason it's irregular is that it has an E in the stem or reinserted into the stem to make it yo veo, I see. Tu ves, you see. El ve, she sees. Ella ve, she sees. Nosotros vemos, we see. Vosotros ves, you all see. And ellos ven, they see. Or ustedes ven, you all see. Dar is to give. So to say I give, yo doy, you give, tú das. He or she gives, él or ella da. Nosotros damos, we give. Vosotros dais, y'all give. And ellos dan, they give. You can also equate dar just like ir, to go. Remember, ir conjugates voy, vas, va, vamos, vais, van. Doy, das, damos, dais, dan is exactly the same way. So you can think that they're friends. So some practice that you can see with these irregular yo form verbs or irregular verbs in general. Cuando vienes a mi fiesta, you can see that's in the to form. When are you coming to my house? Also an E to IE stem change. Tenemos que decorar los carritos para las fiestas de Quito. Fernando says, yo salgo de aquí en 15 minutos. I am leaving from here in 15 minutes. Y llego en media hora, and I'm arriving in a half hour. Manuel, Elena dice que la carrera empieza a las 2. Elena says, here you can see decir is an E to I stem changer. Elena dice que la carrera empieza a las 2, that the race starts at 2. Hay un desfile después, vas a traer tu guitarra. There is a parade afterwards. Are you going to bring your guitar? Sí, yo la traigo. I'm bringing it. Quiero tocar una serenata quiteña. Yo voy a cantar and I'm going to sing. ¿Qué hacemos después del desfile? What are we doing afterwards? Elena y yo damos una fiesta en casa. We are throwing a party at home. Ahora ella prepara la ensalada y yo pongo la mesa. She prepares the salad and I set the table. Bueno, llego en media hora. I'm arriving in a half hour. Hasta luego. So if we just looked at some conjugations here, of all the verbs, because remember, these are all present tense verbs, and sometimes they are irregular and sometimes they're not. So yo nado is not irregular. Tú escribes. El traje cuesta, the suit costs. Nosotros preferimos, we prefer. Ella borra, she erases. Ellos beben, they drink. Tú quieres, you want. Él sirve, he serves. Notice the stem change in the last two. Nosotros patinamos, we skate. And vosotros almorzáis, you all have lunch. You do not need to stem change almorzar because it's outside of the boot. Some more conjugations. Usted puede, you, sir or ma'am, can or are able to. Yo pongo, I set or I put. Nosotros traemos, we are bringing. Ellos caen, just a regular verb. I know it looks weird with the A before the E, but that actually is just regular. Yo pienso means I think, with an E to I E stem change. Nosotros volvemos, no stem change in the nosotros form. Vosotros dormís, you all sleep, no stem change in the vosotros form. Ellos dan, ellas salen, and yo juego with a U to UE stem change. Some more verbs that you can see. Él vive, he lives. Tú hablas, you speak. Ellos tienen, they have, with a stem change. Yo soy, that's the first verb we talked about in this video. Tú cocinas, you cook. Nosotros preparamos, we prepare. Él corta, he cuts. Ella sacude, she dusts, as in like the furniture. Ellos comparten, they share. Nosotros rompemos, we break. The last thing that we're going to talk about in this video is saber versus conocer. So if you have any questions about any of the present tense verbs, please come see me. The last two verbs we need to talk about are saber and conocer. They conjugate rather normally. They have irregular yo forms, where instead of sabo, it becomes yo sé, I know. Tú sabes, you know. Él y usted sabe, sabemos, sabes, saben. Conocer is irregular in all places but the yo form. The yo form is conozco. And both verbs mean to know. So yo sé means I know, and yo conozco means I know. But use them in different situations, much like ser versus estar. So if we were going to compare saber and conocer, the reasons that we're going to use saber is for information, knowing information, and knowing how to do something. So yo sé la respuesta is I know the answer. That's information. You know how to cook. Tú sabes cocinar is an ability. Conocer we're going to use for people and places, knowing people and knowing locations. Like, yo conozco a Raúl, I know Raúl. Ellos conocen Florida bien, they know Florida well, like it's a location. So think of conocer as the person or is the verb that knows people and places, kind of street smart. Saber is kind of more like a bookworm and knows who, what, where, when, and why. He knows information and how in terms of abilities. So one big thing to notice is that if I say I know Florida, that's knowing a location. That would be conocer. But if I was to say I know where Florida is, although it sounds like I'm talking about knowing a location, that is actually considered information because it's information about the location of something, not knowing the place itself. So we'll see some examples on that. So for example, ¿sabes que mi equipo de voleibol acaba de ganar otro partido? Did you or do you know that my volleyball team just won another game? That's information. Estamos muy contentas porque sabemos que vamos a ser las campeonas. We are very happy because we know that we are going to be champions. What do we know? That we are going to be champions. That's information. Not talking about knowing people or places. En el verano, las otras jugadoras y yo vamos a Santo Domingo. Santo Domingo is the capital of the Dominican Republic. Yo no conozco bien la ciudad. I don't know the city well. Here we're talking about knowing a place, so we're going to use conocer. Mis amigas tampoco la conocen. My friends don't know it either, still referring to the city. Pero sé que va a ser un viaje interesante. But I know that it's going to be an interesting trip. So anytime you see the word que after a problem, it's talking about knowing that something is true, which is information. ¿Y tú? ¿Sabes qué vas a hacer este verano? Do you know what you are going to do this summer? That would be information as well. Tu amiga Eva. Some more examples that you'll see here. Tú conoces a Yolanda. You know Yolanda. The word a, right after conoces, we'll talk about this in a later chapter, is a personal a. It means that whatever is coming after the word a, for in this case Yolanda, is a human being. So for that reason, if you ever see an a before a name or before anything, you are going to use conocer because you are talking about knowing a person or people. Nosotros sabemos jugar al voleibol. We know how to play soccer. Another great way to remember this is if you see an infinitive, a verb that ends in AR, ER, or IR, directly after the problem, you're talking about abilities. Nosotros sabemos jugar. We know how to play. Ellas saben que vamos a ganar el partido. They know that. Again, whenever you see a K afterwards, you're talking about knowing that something is happening. Ustedes conocen bien a Juan y a Raúl. Here you can see two names and the personal a we just talked about. You all know Juan and Raúl well. And then finally we see an infinitive after the problem, tocar la guitarra, to play the guitar. So we know that it's an ability. Jorge sabe tocar la guitarra. And some final problems. Yo conozco Santo Domingo. Santo Domingo is a place, the capital of the Dominican Republic, so it's conocer. Yo conozco Santo Domingo. I know Santo Domingo. It's my favorite city. Los estudiantes saben que la escuela es importante. The students know that the school is important. Information. Queremos conocer a los jugadores famosos. Here, we do not conjugate two verbs in a row. Because queremos is conjugated, we should not conjugate conocer. We also know that conocer is being used instead of saber is because directly afterwards, we see the personal a. We want to know the famous players. And of course, famous players are people. So that is conocer. Mi madre sabe que quiero un bate nuevo. My mom knows that I want a new bat. Information. Y Miguel no conoce la República Dominicana. Is Miguel does not know or is not familiar with the Dominican Republic. I think that'll do it for this video. If you have any questions, please come see me.